Great.
Perfect.
So welcome everyone. Thanks for coming out. My name is Simon. I'm VP Operations of the OHSC. Tonight for our Mitacs information session, I'll be moderating. I'd like to just start off in land acknowledgement before anything else. So although we may not be gathering in person, the OHSC recognizes that the University of Guelph campus resides on the ancestral lands of the Attawandaron people and the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, and that the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples have longstanding and ongoing relationships with this region. University of Guelph is located within Treaty 3, and we take this moment to remember our individual and organizational responsibility to this place and its people's histories, rights, and presence. Let us continue to remember our role in holding our institution and the government accountable and to never forget the colonial history underfoot. So with that, I'd like to give a little introduction to our speaker for today. First of all, Mitacs is a nonprofit national research organization in partnerships with Canadian academia, private industry, and government that operates research and training programs in fields related to industrial and social innovation. Emily Gordon, our speaker tonight, is the Mitacs Business Development Specialist at the University of Guelph. Emily's position provides a bridge between Mitacs programming, industry, and faculty and students in all colleges at the university. So Emily, would you like people, if they have questions, to just put them in the chat anytime or save them for the end?
Yeah, either or. I did leave some time at the end for a question and answer period or discussion period. But if you feel more comfortable putting them in the chat, certainly we can do that. Or you can use the raise hand function, either or. Fantastic.
Okay, I'll give it over to you then, Emily.
Great. Thanks for that, Simon, and thanks for the land acknowledgement. I appreciate everyone taking time out of their, what I imagine, a busy semester to come and chat with me this evening. So my presentation today is really just going to be focusing on providing a bit of an overview of what Mitacs offers to students, specifically with the University of Guelph, as that's, as Simon mentioned, my role is to support the University of Guelph exclusively. So we'll go over some of our program details, give you some tips on how to identify partner organizations. However, I think that could be a session in and of itself. Talk about some of the projects that University of Guelph currently has or has recently wrapped up, and then an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. So as Simon mentioned, Mitacs is a national independent not-for-profit organization, and our mandate is really to foster growth and innovation within Canada and beyond. Our aim is to really support the next generation of researchers and innovators for Canada's knowledge and innovation-based economy. So our goal is to bring together industry, not-for-profits, community groups, and post-secondary institutions to help solve challenges faced by businesses or society in general, while advancing academic research goals within the institution. So we certainly have the experience. We support, most post-secondary institutions across Canada. We've been in operation for over 20 years. I think we're at about 100 business development specialists, so individuals like myself placed all across Canada to support each university and post-secondary institution. We've supported over 35,000 research projects to date, and we have over 6,000 company partners within our organization that we support. So we have some main, objectives in terms of what our programs hope to achieve. First and foremost is to promote high quality research. The majority of the projects that we approve of do go for academic peer review because we want to ensure, that we're following what's, state of the art within the scientific community, whether that be in, sociology or in engineering. We can really support everything in between. Our goal is to also attract new types of funding. So this is different than some of the larger funding organizations that are out there, because we really want to ensure that the projects are collaborative and that they do involve a training program for the individuals who are undertaking the project. We also hope to stimulate international research collaborations through our many different programs. as well as increased professional development opportunities for both students and researchers. And through this, we support flexible and collaborative research initiatives. We have several different partners that we can work with to really meet the needs of whoever we're working with. Our partnerships are really key. So we have a significant research, our international research network, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We have agreements with over 50 like-minded organizations. So these are, other not-for-profits or even for-profits, where we have agreements to work with those groups. Like I said, over 35,000 research projects have been funded to date, and we support post-secondary institutions across Canada and beyond. We really try to have flexible funding models to meet the needs of what you're looking to do. So, if we're working with a company, we're there with them every step of the way to guide them through that process in order to meet the needs of what they're looking to achieve within their company. So whether that's introducing them to specific researchers at the institution that they want to work with, to helping get the application up off the ground. We also help you develop the application and put your proposal together. So we're there to help read any drafts that might come along, answer any questions, or help carve out any type of challenges that you might be facing as you're coming up with your research proposal. We do have over 80 of us now. I think, like I said, we're about 100 now, which is pretty crazy. We all have, I think, minimum a master's degree. I have a master's degree, but I know many of my colleagues have PhDs, and some of them have even done postdocs to support post-secondary institutions across Canada. So what are some of the benefits? So this is, aimed at more at the faculty level, but certainly, a lot of these benefits are transferred to you as the student and intern on the projects. So first and foremost, we support students. So the majority of the funding that comes to the researcher, the institution, goes directly to yourselves, whether you're an undergraduate student, a graduate student, or a postdoc. There is some funds that can be used for research expenses, but the majority of the funding is there to support you, who is undertaking the research project. In some instances, it's a really great opportunity to work with external partnerships. So those external to the academic institution, and really provide additional exposure and knowledge to your training program at the university. One thing that we do want to support is to be able to maintain publication rights. So a lot of the times when you're working with, an industry partner, there are, research agreements that can come together, and perhaps they want to own some intellectual property if you're helping them develop something. But we want to ensure that you have the opportunity to maintain publication rights to help advance your academic career, as well as that of your academic supervisor. So the majority of our programs do have a very high success rate, which we're really proud of. And that is really because we are there to help along the way and put the project together with you. We are open to all disciplines. So we have a huge uptake in social sciences and humanities projects, as well as, the traditional STEM-based programs that we supported, when we first started. So we have three kind of focuses in terms of the types of programs that we have, but two larger buckets. So the first two buckets that I wanted to talk about today are our Accelerate BSI program and then our Elevate program. So those are what I would call our industry academic buckets. So these projects involve an industry community partner and an academic institution and yourself as the researcher. We also have another bucket of program, which is our international program. So these are if you have a desire to travel and meet other academic collaborators in our partner countries, that program might be for you. So I'm going to talk about these three categories today and go in a little bit more detail. But just so you know, we do have different types of programs that can meet the needs of what you're looking to do for your, whether it's your thesis or, just a short-term project. So the first one I will talk about is our Accelerate and BSI program. So these are two distinct programs, however, they do function very similar. and I'll talk about them a little bit more in detail. So for now, we'll call them the industry academic projects. So what they are is applied research collaborations between researchers and Canadian or international companies and Canadian not-for-profit organizations. So these programs, I believe, for the most part, are open to all academic institutions across the country. They're certainly open to all academic disciplines, and these projects can start as small as 4 months, but they can actually make up the entire, thesis or the entire length of your thesis. So we're really flexible in terms of how these projects can come together, how they evolve, and we'll get into that a little bit more throughout the presentation, just so you have a sense of how the projects can be scaled up. What's really great about these industry academic projects is that they're non-competitive, so you can apply at any time. Like I mentioned, they are either peer-reviewed, so externally reviewed, if you're going through the research-based stream, or they're adjudicated internally if you're going through the non-research stream. But that being said, they're not competitive in the sense that they take any previous academic experience into consideration. And so, whether you're just starting out your academic career, maybe don't have any publications to your name, it's not something that's really considered when you put a project together. So our Accelerate program is our research-based internship program. So these projects, like I said, can start as small as 4 months. So that fits really nicely into a semester model if you wanted to do a project over that semester. But they could fill the entire duration of your master's thesis or PhD thesis. Funding for this starts at $15,000 for that 4 to 6 month period. And from there, it's just scaled up. And so that would offer funding in order for you to complete your degree. This is open to both domestic as well as international students. As long as they're registered within the university, they're eligible. The turnaround time for the Accelerate program is pretty quick. It's about 6 to 8 weeks because they do go for external peer review. We do, want to ensure that we do give the reviewers enough time to do that. They do have a very high success rate, which is really great. So similarly, our BSI program, traditionally it was called our Business Strategy Internship Program. Since then, it's kind of evolved a little bit to be able to support, non-business sectors and non-business disciplines, but we've kept the name for now. So this officially launched at the University of Guelph in 2021, so just last year, with the goal to really support those projects that maybe aren't quite research-based. We still call them innovation-based. You still need to have, a plan in place. They still need to have some sort of innovative backbone to them, but they don't have to necessarily fit into that traditional research bucket. And so, the eligibility requirements are the same for our BSI program, and it's a fairly simple application process as well. So some of the uses for this program, like I mentioned, non-traditional research. So whether you're creating or commercializing a product, again, this could fall under research, but it could also not fall under research. Maybe you're helping the partner organization develop a new or improved process or program that they offer. That would fall under this program, certainly. Like I mentioned, it was traditionally a program to support more the business sector. So identifying new business models, market research projects, those could fit under this program, but also looking at public services. So working, with a city or, a region to, help improve a program that they offer could certainly fit under this stream. And then, another option could be knowledge mobilization. Again, maybe you're developing podcasts or videos or interviews that are going to be disseminated to the public. That could certainly fall under a research project, but it might also fall under our BSI program. There's many more examples that can fit within this umbrella of our program, but those are just some examples of projects that would be eligible. So under both of these programs, like I said, 4 months is the minimum, but you can do multiple of these projects put together. They can be with different partners, they can be with the same partner, but you can also be a part of a larger project. So you could have multiple students on one project within your lab or the program that you're taking. The one kind of, unique aspect to this program is that we really want to see that you're spending time with the partner organization. Right now, a lot of that time is spent virtually, what we're doing now, attending Teams meetings, but we really want to see that you're on site or in person, being able to interact with the partner organization, because it not only helps, meet the goals and the objectives of the project, but it also allows you that opportunity to gain that experience working outside of the academic community. So how the funding works for this. So for the most part, Mitacs matches at a 1-to-1 rate. So the company typically contributes $7,500. Mitacs will match that $7,500 for a total budget of $15,000. And this can support a 4 to 6 month project. So if you were to scale that, it would just be a matter of, contributing additional funding to meet the needs of the project. The majority of this funding does go towards your stipend as a student, your salary as a postdoc, and then a portion can be used for any project expenses. So maybe there's publication fees associated with the project. Maybe you need to pay for software licensing, travel, conferences, accommodations. For the most part, all of those can be covered by the project expenses from the budget. So we've been able to develop a bit of a flexible funding model so that you can be supported throughout the entire duration of your master's program, for example. So if you're doing a 2-year master's thesis based and you want to do a project with an external partner throughout the duration of that time, we can make that funding model work. At the undergraduate level, you can do 3 of these terms. So you can do anywhere from 12 to, I guess you can technically do anywhere from 4 to 18 months, whatever works for you. And then postdocs, we can support a 3-year postdoc under our Accelerate program. So how does the funding work? That's kind of a common question that does come up a lot. So what happens is you put your project proposal together with your partner. Mitacs will actually invoice the partner organization for their contribution to the project. And so from there, Mitacs will match the funds, or if we're having any unique special leveraging programs or initiatives, we'll put the total award together, and then it'll get sent to the university in the name of your academic supervisor. And so then the majority, like I said, the majority of that funding does go to you as the researcher on the project. A portion can go for project-related expenses, and then your time is spent with the partner organization. So I'm going to briefly go into our Elevate program. I don't know if we have too many PhD students on today, but it's something to maybe think about in the future. So Elevate is designed for postdoctoral fellows. So when you're in your PhD, maybe you're thinking of what you want to do after you're graduating, but maybe looking to do something that's a bit of a bridge between an academic postdoc versus more of an industrial or a community postdoc fellowship. So the Elevate program is very similar to Accelerate, with the exception that it is geared specifically for postdoctoral fellows. It is a competitive process, so it's not the same as our Elevate in terms, or our Accelerate in terms of the fact that you can apply for it at any time. There's 2 calls a year for the Elevate program. The same requirements are that you do need to have an academic supervisor, and you do need to have an industry or community partner to play a role in the project. The way that the funding works for this is it's actually a $60,000 award, so it's a little bit higher than our traditional funding model. The partner would contribute $30,000. Mitacs would match that $30,000 on an annual basis for a total award of $60,000. With this program, that's a little bit unique, is you actually do have a professional development training program embedded into the program. So because it's cohort based and because there's those 2 calls a year, it really gives you an opportunity to network with other Elevate postdoctoral fellows. So you do create a bit of a cohort, and you can attend the training and professional development sessions together. Usually it's done in person, but it has been done remote based on the pandemic, and now I think there's a bit of a hybrid model taking place. So the training program is something that happens throughout the entire duration of the fellowship, and it focuses on 3 areas: so leadership and management, communications and relationship building, and personal and professional development. So this training is really supposed to help you kind of kick off your career, whether it's going to be in academia or outside of academia, but really being able to, run a research program and, project manage and even manage students potentially in the future. So it's really giving you those core skills in order to advance your career. Now, finally, the last program I wanted to talk about this evening is our Global Link program. Now, Global Link is kind of a completely separate program from anything that we've really chatted about today, because it's more inter-university based. So what I mean by that is it's an opportunity for you to develop a project with an international institution. You do have to have them identified already, although there are some instances where you can apply without having an international partner in mind. You can just let us know if there's something that you have in mind, and we can see if we have something that might work. But it's really an opportunity for you to either go to an international institution, or for an individual at an international institution to come to Canada. We have, I don't know if these stats are accurate, but I'll show you the list of all of the agreements that we have, which is quite large in a moment, but we have a significant number of agreements with international institutions and international organizations to help support this program. But it's something that, can offer a little bit of funding to go and, collaborate with an international institution. So the projects start at 12 weeks, but they can be 24 weeks in length. And that's the time that you, I believe, have to be spent on site. We recognize right now with the pandemic, a lot of individuals haven't been traveling, but we really want to encourage, physically being able to go and use lab equipment that may be, proprietary to that lab that you're working with. So virtual interaction has been a little bit challenging with this program in particular. So we're really, hoping that since all of the travel restrictions have been lifted for the most part, that this is something that students will be able to do in the next few months. For the most part, this is open to all levels of student, whether it's undergrad, graduate, or postdocs. But we do have specific agreements with our partner organizations in terms of the types of individuals that they're able to support. It's a $60,000 award where, it's really allowing you to travel and have accommodations paid for over that duration of time. So here's just a high-level glimpse at some of our international partnerships. So you'll see we have a significant number of partners in France and Germany. This list is kind of always evolving, so it's always great to check our website because we do keep it up to date. And so these are just some of the organizations that you're able to do a project with. We do have another list of international countries that you're able to do a project with as well. There's a little bit of a difference in terms of the administration of that, but high level, it's something that we're able to support if there's a specific partner or a specific university that's not on this list. It's always best to check with us, and we can let you know if it's something that we can put together. One thing I didn't mention with the Global Link program is that you do still have to put a proposal together. It doesn't have, there's no external partner involved in this program. You would be putting a project together with an international university. So one question that does get asked a lot, especially with students, is how do you go about finding a partner organization? Maybe down the road we can do a session just on this, because there's lots of different tricks that my colleagues have shared with me over the last 2 years that I've been at Mitacs. But some ideas, that I have are. Actually, we'll talk about the partner eligibility first, and then we'll get into some tips. So we can support projects with domestic for-profits. So these are, for-profit organizations. They could be multinational, they could be Canadian owned, but they do need to have a physical location in Canada. We can also support projects with international for-profit companies. So these may be companies in, say, the US, for example. They don't have a footprint in Canada, but it's an interesting collaboration. It's a little bit more administratively heavy to put projects like that together, but it is something that we can support. We can also support projects with domestic nonprofits. We do have to do a bit of a pre-approval check if we haven't worked with them before. But we just can't do projects with international not-for-profits. New to Mitacs is we've been able to now support Canadian hospitals. So looking to do a project with a hospital and an academic institution at the University of Guelph, for example, we can make that work. Also new to Mitacs is being able to support municipalities. So in the past, we weren't able to work directly with municipal governments, but that has since changed, and so now we can do projects with City of Guelph, for example. The only two, large partners that we can't work with are provincial or federal governments. Now, getting into some of the tips. So the first step in putting your project together is identifying an industry or community partner. They are required to be on at least the previous programs that I spoke about, but they also have to be there to support the project financially. So the first thing I would suggest is to ask your academic supervisor. Have they have any, previous projects that were a success? Maybe they're interested in working with that professor again, and you might, be interested in being the student on that project. So that's always a good first step. Even, other individuals in your lab or your program, where maybe what kind of companies or community partners have they worked with before, and has it been, has there been a successful project come out of that? While we can support projects with, an employer maybe that you've worked with in the past, we would have to just make sure that it's separate and distinct from any work that you've done with them before. So maybe you had a summer job at a company in Guelph and you want to do a Mitacs project with them. We would just want to make sure that, one, you're not employed during the time of the project, and two, the project that you're going to be doing has a different lens applied to it than maybe some of the work that you did if you worked there for, say, a summer semester. Another really great opportunity is to attend networking events. I know right now it might be a little bit challenging. I've heard some conferences are starting to take place in person, but by attending conferences, maybe industry days, even job fairs sometimes, while we're not really supporting jobs necessarily, we want to support academic collaborations. Those are good places to see what's going on in the industry. So, just by attending some of those sessions, you can get a sense of what companies are doing, what partner organizations are doing, and if there's an opportunity there to work with them. Another great resource would be to look at news releases through the university. So they do really, highlight partnerships that have been successful with the University of Guelph in news releases. And so it's getting a sense of what kind of companies, what kind of external partners is the University of Guelph engaged in, so that when you're making these connections, you have something to take with you and say, I recognize that you recently worked with so-and-so at the University of Guelph, and then start to introduce yourself. As well as make your own connections. There's so many different ways of reaching out to individuals out there. If it's, a partnership that you think could be really, really positive. One resource that my colleague shared with me, which I thought was really great, was, and certainly with this group here, health and life science associations are also a great resource. Not necessarily as the partner, but they have, anywhere from 50 to probably 500 members of their association. And so getting a sense from these associations, what types of companies they work with, who their member base is. You'll start to see a lot of the larger larger companies out there within the sector that you're looking at. But then maybe you'll also start to see some startup companies that are really just looking to get off the ground and could really use some academic expertise. And finally, Mitacs has some great resources. So we post open projects on our website every other week, I believe. And then these would be projects that our team has made connections with companies or not-for-profits, just speaking with them, but they don't have an academic expert or a student in mind. They'll post their project to our website, and you have the opportunity to apply or reach out, whichever you choose, and see if it might be a good fit. You can also look at some of the previously funded Mitacs projects, and I'll talk about a couple of them momentarily, but we post most of our projects that we've supported on our website as well. We list the partner organization, the institution, and the name of the project, and a bit of a summary. That's a really great resource just to get a sense of the types of projects that do come through Mitacs and that have been supported. And finally, we do have a blog and a webinar on our website on how to find an industry partner. And I can share the links to those as well. But if you type in, Mitacs and then, how to find an industry partner, it should pop up. So finally, the exciting bit, I wanted to share some project examples from the University of Guelph. So this is by no means, all of the projects we support. I think close to 100 projects over the last year at the University of Guelph. But I just wanted to give a bit of a snapshot of some of them that are somewhat relevant to the One Health group. So let's go dive in. So the first one that I thought was an interesting one, first because it was a part of a larger SSHRC grant within OVC. So this one was by Dr. Andrew Papadopoulos, and his partner on this project was the Canadian Public Health Association. So while we can't support Health Canada, we can certainly support Canadian Public Health Association. And so this project really looked at determining healthcare providers' intentions to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, and improving the health communication strategies behind that. So really great project with his PhD student. Another SSHRC-associated project was with Dr. Robin Roth and Dr. Ben Bradshaw. So this project was with Nature United. They were looking at establishing and enabling conditions required to facilitate Indigenous-led nature-based greenhouse gas offset projects in Canada. So this was, again, a part of a large SSHRC grant that Robin Roth is a part of. But this particular project was to support Dr. Ben Bradshaw's PhD student. Another interesting project that falls under more human health and sciences was in College of Biological Sciences, of course, was with Dr. Jamie Burr and a partner organization that we have, again, another not-for-profit called Own the Podium, with a for-profit company called Delphi Medical. And so their project was to look at performance-enhancing effects of altering blood flow patterns. And so this was led by a PhD student as well as a postdoc. So, you know, a good example of combining levels of expertise on one project. And this was also a 2-year project, so it was a longer term project compared to the other two, which were just short-term projects. One thing that is always really great to see is when you have an academic supervisor who continuously works with, you know, an industry or community partner, and then really offers these opportunities for their students. So one faculty member that does that quite frequently is Dr. Ryan Norris. I made a mistake here. It's not College of Biological Sciences. Oh, wait, it is. Yes, sorry about that. It is College of Biological Sciences. But he does a lot of projects with Nature Conservancy of Canada. So I wanted to include that. Multiple projects focused on biodiversity and conservation biology. Yeah, and again, in College of Biological Sciences, integrated biology. This project here is another great example of having multiple students. So this was a large project with actually a Guelph-based company called Zen Graphene. They now go by Zentech. But their project looked at developing advanced graphene-based antiviral nanocomposites against COVID-19. And this was led by Dr. Aifeng Chen in the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences. So lots of students were supported on this project. Another project, this was a shorter term one, a 4-month project with a PhD student in Dr. Mike Steele's lab in OAC with Trow Nutrition, and they were looking at the effects of reducing the omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio in milk replacers on intestinal health in neonatal calves. Another great example from the College of Biological Sciences was with Dr. Jennifer Geddes McAllister. This was supporting one of her master's students for, I believe it was 1 year, a 1-year project. And this was with a company called Wake. They work on medical mushrooms. And so this project was on mass spectrometry analysis of beneficial compounds and profiles of medicinal mushrooms. So this is just a quick snapshot of, you know, the number of internship units. So those are those 4-month units that we've supported at the University of Guelph. So you'll see, you know, we've certainly increased our numbers over the last few years, and we're hopeful that, you know, we'll be able to continue doing so. So that gets to the end of my presentation. I do want to thank our funding partners. We're funded by both provincial and federal government. And I will leave all of my contact information here in case anyone has any questions. Again, happy to answer any right now, but if you prefer to email them, certainly able to do that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily. That was very informative. I know I learned a lot for sure. It seems like it's a great amount of work that you guys are doing at Mitacs. I would love to open the floor for any questions that anyone might have. You can either raise your hand, you can just unmute, I think we're a small enough group, or throw them in the chat and I can read them out. While people are formulating their thoughts, I will love to get the ball rolling. So if someone finds a potential partner and they've already talked to them, who should they get in touch with at Mitacs? Is there someone in particular, depending on what field it is, or? Yeah,
so if you want to stay at the University of Guelph, you can reach out to me. I'm the only Mitacs rep for the University of Guelph. If you're looking to, build a project, if you're looking at, maybe you're wrapping up your master's, but you want to do your PhD somewhere else, you can still get in touch with me if you want. But like I said, we have a huge group of business development specialists that can support you, because every once in a while there'll be differences at different institutions. But for the University of Guelph, you can get in touch with me. I'm happy to answer any, early stage questions. And then help when it comes to putting the project proposal together.
Great. I have a question in the chat here from Grace. Thank you for your presentation. Are public health units eligible partners, or do those count as provincial level organizations?
That's a really good question. So when we started working with municipalities, that was something that did come up. So while we can support anything municipally funded, when it comes to public health units, a lot of them, at least in my experience, are provincially funded. So any public health unit that does have, a large portion of their funds coming from the province, I think it might be a bit of a no. But it's always good to check and see. As I mentioned, anytime we work with a not-for-profit, we do go through a vetting phase just to make sure that, they are separate and independently incorporated from the provincial government or federal government. So always great to check, because I know each public health unit is funded differently.
Okay. I have another question, kind of following up on that, maybe. You mentioned that Canadian hospitals and municipalities are two of your newer partner types. Do you have any examples of projects that people have done with those so far?
So I haven't. So I personally haven't done any hospital projects. I was speaking with someone recently. So this is huge at within U of T, because U of T has a huge relationship with their research hospitals downtown, and so there's a lot of projects that have come through that way. I'm trying to think if there's anything that has come directly through that I've been a part of, but I don't believe so, at least not through University of Guelph anyway. One that I'm in early stage talks with, and again, I don't know if this will land with the hospital itself or the hospital will be where the data is being collected. So that's another way of working with hospitals, and it can get, kind of confusing when you have multiple partners on one project. But a lot of projects, even in the past when hospitals weren't eligible, a lot of the work could take place with, maybe there was interviewing being done at the hospital, or some of the setting was, based at the hospital. They just couldn't be, the funder of the project. When it comes to municipalities, certainly there's lots of really great examples. So the city of Guelph actually did a project with, I think it was University of Western Ontario, and they were looking at food recycling, and there was expertise at the University of Western Ontario to support that project. Another one that was really interesting was within the Durham region, so just outside of the GTA. They were looking at homelessness within the community and how to develop strategies to, help get people off the streets. And so lots of really great examples, especially you can check our website and see what other kind of municipal based projects. But again, it's still something that's early stage. So I think that there's so much potential to be able to support, both municipalities as well as hospitals.
Absolutely. That sounds fantastic. Riley, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to go ahead?
Awesome. Yeah. Hi, Emily. Thank you so much for your presentation. That was such a great introduction to Mitacs for me personally. And I'm so sorry if I missed this answer to my question, but I did recall you mentioning that there was a fair amount of professional development sort of built in to the Elevate program. And I was just curious if there was any similar level of that wrapped into the Accelerate program at all, or with mentorship with the industry partner, or if that kind of depends on the project?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I do apologize I didn't mention that. So Mitacs has recently developed, I mean, I guess we've had it for a while, but we've redeveloped our training program. So whether you're a Mitacs student or not, you can participate in our professional development training. So maybe once we wrap up here, I'll send the link to you, Riley, and the planning committee, and then you can disseminate it, because we're still trying to promote it within the university. It was recently launched in January, but it's a really great tool to have. It's called Edge. And there's live sessions. So most are all virtual right now, but there's, they're in person kind of. And then there's some that you can do on your own. So you don't necessarily have to go through the guided presentation portion. But that's really great. And it's offered to any student at a Canadian institution for free. And you just sign up for the program that you want to take, and then you attend.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I have one other question. I don't see any other hands at the moment.
Sure.
How often is that page of the current opportunities updated, would you say?
So we have I think every 2 weeks is when we get access, or we get notified that new projects are out, and so that at that point, if we think that something might be a good fit for the institution that we support, we can share that. But as soon as the partner organization completes their form to fill out essentially what kind of expertise they're looking for, what the project entails, we upload it right away. So it should be live, in a matter of a day, I would say. So it's always great to check that and see what types of opportunities come up. I will admit a lot of them are very focused on like engineering, computer science, because a lot of companies that we speak with really want to have, just something developed quickly for them. But we do get some really interesting projects come through, that I think could be interesting for the One Health group.
For sure, absolutely. I'm going to give about 10, 15 seconds to see if there's anyone else with any questions. Grace, you have your hand up.
Yes. Hi, Emily. I was wondering, how long does it usually take students and supervisors to put projects together before they actually apply for the Elevate grant?
That's a good question. So it can really depend. I've had applications come together in a matter of a couple of days, but sometimes they can take a long time. Looking at the length of the project certainly has an impact on how long the application takes. But it's not, it's really not that time consuming in terms of what's required. There is a section where we ask for a bit of a background information. So this would be, a fairly short lit review, about 500 words. And then there's a section following that where you really just talk about the methodology. And so that's what's mostly adjudicated is, what are your objectives and how are they going to be achieved? And that's what's, kind of forms the basis of the proposal. You mentioned Elevate. Elevate is a little bit more lengthy, I would say, in terms of what's required, because you do have to have that, research program foundation for the project. But just I guess based in my experience, anywhere from a couple weeks to maybe a month is probably a good buffer time to be able to put an application together.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a place that you can specifically look for Indigenous based research or that kind of thing?
Do you mean projects that have already been done or open projects?
I guess both?
So projects that have already been done, absolutely. So we have our projects posted on our website. And so it's just a matter of, identifying the right keywords to be able to see that. In terms of open projects, I would say we get them occasionally. My experience for, Indigenous-based research projects have been that whether it's an Indigenous-based not-for-profit, they typically have an idea of the specific researcher that they want to work with. And so with that, they don't typically post an open project. And this is the case with most of our projects, is they do have a relationship already. So that's just based on my experience. We do have a few Indigenous account managers, if you will, on our team. And so their role is to really work with, specific communities in terms of identifying where their needs are and, what kind of academic-based collaborations they're interested in doing. So it's certainly something that's top of mind at Mitacs and, a part of our priorities. But it's a good, idea is, having a bit of an idea of what some of those research needs are and, how Mitacs can support.
Okay, thank you. Is there any prominent organizations that those projects normally align with, or is it kind of just all over?
So one thing that just the way that our funding model works is we can't leverage funding directly with an Indigenous government because we're also funded by a government. So it's a little bit challenging when it comes to specifically putting those together. But there's actually a lot of for-profit Indigenous organizations that we work with, whether they're economic development wings of a government, they would be eligible because they're a for-profit organization. There's a lot of groups that are non-government, but they're incorporated as a not-for-profit that we can support. So there's a lot of different ways that they do come together. It's just, being able to identify the right project, able to work directly with the community, but, have a separate partner on the project.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Not hearing or seeing anything.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, on behalf of everyone here in the OHSC, thank you so much, Emily, for running this session. It's been really great. And if people want to get in touch with you, would they email is the best idea, probably?
Yeah. Email's always easiest, but I'm always happy to answer my phone. I don't know if people still call anymore, but yeah, you can reach me at, I have 2 email addresses. Yeah, you can reach me at my email addresses or my phone anytime.
That's great. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. If anyone has any concerns with the recording of this session, they can email me. I'll put my email in the chat. But other than that, it's been great. Take care. Have a good night and take care.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.